please.
Thank you very much, David. Welcome, everyone. It's great to be here, and obviously this marks an important step on that roadmap to 6G, at least in our view. This first kickoff webinars looking at some of the projects we've selected in the first call of Smart Networking Services. So it's great to be here. It's great to be starting this journey together. And today we'll be looking in more detail exactly on this phase or this part of the overall SNS work program. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to spend 5 minutes just giving sort of the bigger picture or introduction to this whole thing, and then hand over to my colleague from the European Commission from DG Connect, who will look in a bit more detail about the specific projects which are going to be introduced today and the future plans. So the story starts, at least in our view, from the drivers for 6G. Why are we worried about 6G? Why do we need to even start this research work? Why is Europe investing in it? And really the background there can be broken into a number of different areas, as we try to do on this slide. So clearly there is the sort of societal issues, the wish to have a future technology which is trustworthy, secure, inclusive, and clearly there are new technologies which we need to integrate in terms of AI, big data, and all these other things. So that's certainly one of the pressures. But we also have this sort of policy side. So this wish to try and strengthen European industry, try and provide access to the latest technologies. And that's then tied to this business area where this isn't just about creating products and selling products to create telecoms networks. This is very much about leveraging that technology to make European industry competitive today and in the future. If I could then go to the next slide. So based on that input and thinking about the enablers which have been identified in things like the European 6G Vision Paper, which many of you are involved in, we can see that what we need to do is try and take the drivers and enablers and come up with a series of expected results. And this is really about trying to create impact from the smart networking services. So the smart networking services is a wonderful vehicle, a wonderful instrument for bringing together the various actors in the European ecosystem and really influencing what 6G will be. And that's both in terms of technology, but also, as was said, trying to make EU industry competitive. And there are a number of overall goals which we are trying to attain, which are in the contract for the smart networking services. So thing that the private side has said that we will deliver in return for this public side investment. And the last thing on this slide, which is clearly important, is that international collaboration. 6G will not be created by any single region or country. It needs to be collaborative so that we can provide a global 6G standard. And that is a subject which we will be coming back to in the near future, where we try and build those connections with key players around the world, try and make sure we have that influence from the results of your excellent projects, try and leverage that not just at a European level, but an international level. Then for my last slide, I'd just like to talk about some of the things we will need to be talking about in the near future. And first thing is this collaboration agreement. So each of you is involved in a project, or possibly more than one project, and there you have your consortium members and you have the contract for that project, and that's great. But as was said, we need to build a bigger community here. It's not about individual disparate projects. We need to link the bits together. And there are two ways we're going to be doing this. And the first thing is we need to have this collaboration agreement with all the partners in all the projects signing that agreement so that we can work together at this meta level, at this SNS level. And that will be done in a number of ways, but one is to do with working groups. So we have working groups in the current research program, 5G PPP, we will have a separate set of working groups in smart network and services of various different flavors, which I will explain in some future meetings in more detail. But the point is that we need to have the collaboration agreement so that we can set up some of these working groups and start the cross-project collaboration. We also will be setting up, as in 5GPP, a steering board and a technical board, but we can really only set those up once we have a sort of critical mass of partners who have signed the collaboration agreement. The collaboration agreement gives that legal protection that we can share information. And until we have that, we can't really run that SB and TB. What we will do in the meantime is we will have a pre-SB meeting. So I will actually chair that. And the idea is just to bring the key information across to all the projects. So all the projects will be invited, the coordinators of all the projects, and we will just share the critical information about the collaboration agreement, about the working groups, about anything else that you need to know as we go forward. And then once we get to the point that we have that critical mass of partners having sold, so somewhere around 70% of the projects completely signed up, then we will hold elections for the SB so that we can start that. And then that SB will be starting to consider and decide about working groups for those SNS projects. Okay, I've gone through that very quickly. I imagine that might be a bit hazy and not clear. As said, we will have specific meetings to discuss this in more detail going forward, and you will certainly be invited. With that, I'd like to hand over to my colleague from the European Commission, who will be looking in a little more detail about some of the key issues to do with this call and future calls. The floor is yours.